Okay, if I could start the call to order the Southbury Board of Selectmen regular meeting, February 3rd, 2022, to order at 7 p.m. We have a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, if I could, if we could have a moment of silence for former First Selectman Mike Kenny, who passed away February 2nd, 2022. Mike Kenny was First Selectman from 1971 through 1983. He was the First Selectman during the construction of the current Town Hall and the renovations to the Town Hall Annex, which it currently houses the Police Department. Prior to serving as First Selectman, Mr. Kenny, I understand, was a Waterbury school teacher. An interesting historical fact that he was the first full-time selectman paid in the town of Southbury. So if we can have a moment of silence for Mike Kenny. And I thank you for that. Public comment limited to 2 minutes. If you have any public comment, I don't see anybody out here for public comment, so I think we can move on to, you have your announcements and correspondence. And then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? You have a second? Second. Made and second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, it carries.
Jeff, I'm not abstaining because my cousin is obviously
An abstention for
financial interest.
financial interest. Okay, that's fine. Bids and procurements, personal property procurement. Can I have a second? Made and seconded. Any discussion? Same firm we always use. And a competitive bid. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And it's approved. Valentine Pool bid, motion for approval. Got a motion?
Motion to approve the Valentine pool bid.
John Deal will second it. Any discussion? On the pool bid, just so you know, RFP was put out for good, better, best. Good being pool in the same dimensions, requirement, upgrade, and required upgrade to whatever has to be done with the pool house for that. Better was zero entry, minimal expansion, balance of the pool, and required upgrade, because every time you expand, you gotta do more of an upgrade on the bathhouse. Best being a full expansion of both lanes, full upgrade of the pool house, and extra lanes, the whole competitive thing. Dan Colton, myself, and Claire met with the engineering firms at the town pool to go over the RFPs with all the engineering firms that wanted to bid on this. We had an opening with John. John was with us when we opened up the pools, or the RFPs when they came in, and so John was there. Is there any questions on it?
I have some concern, Jeff. Basically, right there in paragraph number 2, we hear that Weston and Sampson's going to be part of this process, and we've already heard from them, if memory serves, and they were one of the people telling us we're looking at a $4 to $5 million project. So I'm just a little worried that, you hire a consultant from Greenwich, you get Greenwich prices, and obviously we're looking for value here. So I'm a little worried about that. But if you guys think that this is the best out of the ones that you saw, then I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, I think John also, we all took them home and reviewed the RFPs. I think that's when Weston and Sampson did that. That was
I know they were shooting from the hip.
they were shooting from the hip, and they were shooting on a pretty extensive pool project. On that, there was no options of the 3, so I think this is a little clearer on the scope of what these 3 pieces were. Obviously, if you're going to go to decide to move ahead with any particular one, it would have to be, you would have to have more specific what it's gonna be. But this should hopefully give us a range, of which way, of the three, what way would we be able to go? I mean, if it's, let's just say if the good came in at 10 million, I'm exaggerating, well, okay, now we've got a problem.
Right.
But if it comes in at, this should be a 1.5 range, then we will look and discuss it amongst the board and where we want to narrow the scope of that design. Does that make sense?
No, it does, it does. I mean, you know, hopefully the options presented are gonna be affordable enough, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what their timeline is?
Top of my head, I don't know. It's in the,
That's why I was just curious. It's not,
I'm sorry?
I was just curious. It's not pertinent to the,
Yeah. I'd have to look into it and see where that is. I can let you know.
Sure.
We'll get you that information. So we have a motion on the floor, made and seconded. We had the discussion. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And it carries. Street sweeper replacement, it's in the, it is in the vehicle replacement plan. Have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion on the street sweeper? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? It carries. Minutes, January 20th of 2022, regular meeting.
motion to approve?
Thank you. John, second? Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, it carries. No unfinished business. Aquifer, new business, Aquifer Protection Agency. This is so that we assign, I would say assign the aquifer protection to the wetlands for some technical reasons and also so that, because they meet more often than,
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
thank you.
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
No, I'll just note that this makes sense, and it did indicate in there that the WPCA also asked for this, so it seems to make sense that it would be under inland wetlands.
Things change, things happen in better places. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And it carries. On the first Selectmen's Report, top of the head here, the Health Department. I've been discussing a little bit of concern about the Health Department. I want to let the board know there is concerns about this, how this is working, what is happening, and as we get deeper into it, I'd really prefer not to discuss too much here in the open because I don't know what this is going to lead to. It's not as, I'm not sure this is as, I'm trying to get meetings together and it seems that it's very difficult to get meetings together. I'm concerned that the Health Department, whether it's going to remain in Southbury over time. And we talked about that. That was one of the big concerns, that we have a presence here in Southbury. We're surrounded by two other of our members. And we want to get some other things, assurances through. You'll be hearing more from me in next couple of weeks. Okay?
Will you be hearing from them during budget hearings at all, Jeff?
I would say we should call them to come to the budget hearings, and explain.
I agree with that.
I got a budget that I saw and said this was going to be the budget, and then as we were here meeting with them, another budget came in that was higher. So that triggered some concern for me, amongst other things, so we're going to look further into this as we go forward.
Historically, the health director has always come to our budget meetings, so I
They also have a finance person, official finance person working on the financials, which I would expect would know more. Dan Colton has asked for some information and pro forma financials, they've not come. So some flags are going up, and we'll know more in the next couple of weeks. A grant award. We actually got information, just came in. As you know, we had a pedestrian study done, and we put in for a community connectivity grant program for the signal lights and for the sidewalks. And I'll read it to you. I just want to let you know that Governor Lamont this afternoon will be announcing the 4th round of a community connectivity grant program awards. We are pleased to let you know that Southbury will be awarded $444,946 for the select pedestrian safety improvements on Main Street South pedestrian study project. So they're just waiting for some they'll be in touch soon. There's some funding thing they got to do, but it looks like it's moving forward, and we'll get better crossing on Main Street, which will be great, and connect that walkway. So that was good news. Affordable housing survey is out. People have seen it. I'm guilty, haven't filled it out. We need to. We should put that out so that we can all be part of that. Community Relations Task Force, John and I, we interviewed some people. Hopefully we can get something finalized pretty soon. We're working on it, and hopefully get that in place in the next number of weeks, or certainly, hopefully sometime beginning of March, have something where the group can actually be formed. So we are working on that. We have been meeting with our new town attorneys and getting them up to speed. It's going pretty well. Just for your information, there are some things that are going to be left with the current attorney at the other firm because it doesn't make financial sense to, we're at a point where they should stay with that. And it's not an issue, but just so you're aware, they're still going to work on some of the existing issues. I'd also like to let the board know here that next regular meeting I will probably be moved up to 6 p.m. as a special meeting for some obligations that some of us have. Not a big deal, special meeting, 6 p.m. We'll just do what's on the agenda. If there's something that pops up that needs to be, we can just call it another special meeting, or we'll have the first meeting in March. So just plan accordingly on your schedules. Any other questions? Reports from liaisons, Justin?
None of my groups have met since our last meeting.
Justin, can we, or is your mic on? Thank you.
None of my groups have met since the last meeting. IPOC will have its quarterly meeting next week, so I'll have updates on all of them for our next meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Selectman Buckstone.
The only committee that met was EMS. They had their standard monthly meeting. They reviewed reports from the providers. The big topic of discussion was the volunteer appreciation program, because there's a new statute that increased it this past year, and we're dealing with it in the budget this year with the fire department, also with the service providers on the EMS side. And they've spoken to the fiscal office and have agreed into on how the increase will be implemented over time, and both service providers are on board with that. So I think we'll be hearing more about that during budget season and budget meetings. They're currently working, going through the data from last year and working on the annual report for the past year, which I assume will be happening over the next couple of meetings. And then an administrative thing, they're going to switch their schedule to a every other month meeting. They were meeting monthly, and we just need to look at it. We may need to approve their meeting schedule, because the original resolution that we passed when we formed that committee called for monthly meetings, and they've realized now that they've gotten up to speed and everything. You'll recall that that committee used to be quarterly. So now, they think they can meet every other month, so we just have to look at the resolution, and our board maybe at the next meeting can just say okay to their meeting schedule. That's it for them. ARPA is meeting in a couple of weeks, where I think we're gonna be maybe in a position to make recommendations to this board and the Board of Finance on sort of next steps. And that was it.
Thank you. Selectman Deal?
Then I'm cool. So the Conservation Committee met last week. Very thorough. They basically reviewed each one of the parks. Quite a bit of activity going on. One of the Bennett Park, where they're having a stabilization project on the waterfront as the Pomperaug passes that park. So they're working with the Pomperaug River Watershed Coalition, and they're also working with O&G to gather some materials and to be able to help with that erosion control, working on some projects there. So actually, hats off to them for working with our neighbors, O&G, and they're getting some good work done there. You talk about the grant for the streetscape. They're also working on grants with Dan Colton on some of the spillways up at Jeannie Pierce Park. So that seems to be going well. And then trail maintenance. One of the things they have up there is a little problem is a lot of slippery boardwalks. So they're using some of the experience they have down at Platt Farm with chicken wire on paths, and they're looking at implementing that in some of the others. Trail markers have gone up on Shortsfield Connector and then into Jeannie Pierce Park. So if anybody's been up that way, some changes up there and beautiful paths. They're working on a kiosk at Little York Park, which will be built by some volunteers. That'll be a spring project, and that's coming along. And then this is a little bit out of my scientific knowledge, but there are some biological control for some insects that are eating some of our trees, and they are working on procuring other insects that are local that will eat the first group. And so they're taking pretty good care of not only our paths and our waterways, but the forestry also. So very impressive group. They are reviewing some of the town rules. They talked a little bit about skating on some of the ponds, and then talked about getting with the, I guess, insurance company and attorneys to see if there should be signage and the like on some of our ponds and waterways for safety. The Parks and Recreation Commission, they're actually, the group down there is doing some pretty cool work with, the public was wanting some Saturday programming. They have scheduled some arts and crafts with the parents to be involved, also some toddler programs, and then developing a stronger camp program for this summer. So there's a lot of good activities going down there. I suggest get involved with taking a look at the calendar and participating in some of those events so they can become stronger for the community. Let's see what else there was. One thing, and we talked a little bit about the Community Relations Task Force, and this might be one of the tasks that kind of will blend into this is, and there was a note here on the, I think we've all been copied on the Park and Rec's meeting from November, is there's a conversation about the tree lighting ceremonies that happen in December, and the question of what other activities should be included during those activities, and to make it a bit more inclusive of the community. So there was some conversation there, and I think there was a note here in the November minutes that they were going to be getting with you and possibly creating a task force for the tree lighting to get some more ideas of how to make that an inclusive activity. And after that, that was about it.
Thank you.
They're keeping very busy.
Greg?
So, Just like Justin, my committees haven't met in the last 2 weeks. They meet just a day and 2 days before our next meeting, so I will have an update then. Looking forward to that.
Okay, Selectman Sullivan.
Region 15 Board of Ed met on January 24th. I did watch the stream of the video. Much of the meeting was a report of school safety and security plans. I'm happy to say that the summary overall is that the schools are up to date with appropriate plans. Safety officers are compliant with state requirements, so all seems to be well. There was some interesting discussion, like are substitute teachers aware and how are they made aware of plans and things like that. So I think there was some really good conversation. There was definitely discussion on preparation for budget season. Considerable amount of time was spent on discussion of parking at the high school. On January 20th, Region 15 participated in a virtual breakfast, which included Superintendent Smith, Senator Berthel, House Representative Harrison. And the breakfast was an opportunity to share Region 15 concerns with their state legislators. So that was very nice to hear. They approved some curriculum changes and then broke into executive session. So it was a good
Parking at the high school.
meeting. Always an issue, right, yep.
Since when? It's always an issue. Thank you.
What I found that was interesting out of that conversation that I really hadn't thought about is that as state laws have changed with students not being able to drive other students, there is more need for parking because students may not ride together. So that's sort of just something that's a sort of a after effect of some of the state laws to keep kids safe and not put kids in cars together, but on the flip side, it has put a strain on the parking situation.
Good enough. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And it carries. Thank you, everybody.